Blockchain Show is a podcast that demystifies cryptocurrencies and distributed ledger technology.
Welcome back to the Blockchain Show. This is episode 221. Today we're speaking with Alex Paley, the co-founder of Faraway. Alex, welcome. I'm really curious to hear all about you and the project there. So I guess just to kick us off, if you want to tell us how you got involved and a little bit about Faraway, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I've been in gaming basically since I was 18 years old. That's when Dennis and I, who's my co-founder, started making our first mobile games together. And then, of course, I got more serious about gaming and free-to-play. So we were both heads of studio at Glue Mobile. And then before starting Faraway, we were VPs of product at Scopely. So both big free-to-play companies. We've always worked on mid-core games, right? So like RPGs, strategy games, stuff like that. We've always been really interested in open economies. I'm sure if you talk to anybody at Glue, they would tell you we were, all about like looking at how we can integrate like a blockchain tech in order to like legitimize gray markets in these, in these games. So we've been looking at this for like years now, and finally we just decided to pull the trigger and start Faraway. So at Faraway, we're focusing on like social, like extremely social games with player-driven economies, so player-driven or open economies. And we have a game that's currently out right now. It's called Royale Nations. It's a browser-based first-person shooter built on Solana. It's the first live multiplayer game on Solana, and we're just rapidly scaling. It has over 2 million registered users, and we're right about to start season 2. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that is awesome, man. There's a lot of things there. Like the season thing, that's interesting because, obviously when I was a kid, it's like you'd wait years and years between games. But now it's awesome because you can get different downloadable content, entirely new quests, that sort of thing. So
yeah, and seasons are it's a really well understood mechanic by players, and it gives like players that are new like a very clear time when they should jump in, right? Because what we don't want to happen is that a player who joins a year later feels like they're at some disadvantage or they missed out on the prior year's worth of stuff. So seasons are always a good like refresh mechanic where a new player who's never played Mini Royale before can feel like, hey, I'm going to jump in at the beginning of this season, and they don't feel like they've been left behind in any way.
2 million people is really good. That seems fast. Do you guys have like a really intensive marketing campaign, or is it just kind of organic?
Zero paid marketing at all. So it's a browser game, and I think that's where a lot of the distribution comes from. I mean, that is where all the distribution comes from. Like the large majority of our user acquisition comes through like pure organic link sharing, right? So Dennis and I have been in mobile free to play like our entire careers. And we've just seen how hard it is to acquire new users. And, even if you separate like Web3, like we think that the browser, like in and of itself, is like a very interesting platform for games. Like we think one, it'll enable like new types of game mechanics. And then 2, right, the distribution mechanism is entirely different, right? Because instead of having to get a person to install something, like I can send you a link to Mini Royale, and we could be playing it in 10 seconds together. And no other platform can you do that right now. And that's what sort of unlocks this like rapid player growth. And that's basically the reason that we've been able to scale so quickly.
Yeah, that's a big advantage because I know that, console games, there's always the multi-platform issue where you're starting to see more games. Like I'll have a buddy who's on Xbox and he's like, oh, you got to play this game. It's multi-platform, and we'll try to get it work. And I'll be on PlayStation or something, and it just doesn't. In theory, it's a cool idea, but
doesn't work, or it takes like an hour to download the latest patch, right? Or never mind, like install the game from scratch.
Yeah, so I'm really curious how that works on Solana because I used to think, man, is the entire game running on a blockchain, or is there only like the economic part that's tied into that?
Yeah, it was more so the latter, right? The economic part, like the parts that need to be on chain and should be on chain, are the parts that are on chain. So stuff like moving around the map and shooting people, right? That just doesn't make sense to put on chain. but more of like the economic parts of the game, those are on chain.
Yeah, otherwise it'd be like trying to play a game online in the 90s or something, I would imagine.
Yeah, it just wouldn't make sense, and like it just wouldn't make sense to put everything on chain.
Yeah. So are we talking NFTs, or do you have some other mechanism for how people are able to purchase things and interact?
So you don't need to purchase an NFT to actually play the game. So you can come in, play the game as a guest or a registered user without having any NFTs. But then if you choose to, you can go and either buy one of the NFTs from one of our premium drops. Like typically we do a premium drop at the beginning of each season, or you can actually earn NFTs by playing through our battle pass, completing season quests or daily quests, or doing other types of completing or competing in other in-game events. Right. So there's plenty of opportunities to either buy or earn NFTs. We're then adding like a fungible token economy. That's going to be like later this year. And that's sort of the equivalent of the currency that you have in any game. And that allows you to do stuff like enter clan events, upgrade weapons, all of that type of stuff you would typically use a virtual currency for in a game.
Yeah, that's really cool. It seems like NFT, just the term has kind of shifted a lot in the last year or so. And now it's kind of becoming, I don't know, not really like a dirty word, but people think it's just like a get rich quick kind of scheme. Mm-hmm. And especially people who've only heard about it, in the last year, but like years before, it used to just be referred to as non-fungible tokens and had a lot of utility. And so, I mean, I think it's really cool. I think it's exciting to see that it's starting to get rolled out and actually have real world use cases. But what's your view on just NFTs in general? And I don't know if you want to expand a little bit on that.
I think like one of the big reasons that, players have or people in general have like a negative reaction towards like the word NFT and the concept of NFTs is that like a lot of the NFTs right now, they don't have any utility like at all. There's no reason to own them because other than, pure speculation. Right. And I think that's why people view them as a get rich quick scheme. But in the context of a game, right, games have items, games have currencies. Those items in a Web3 game, those items are NFTs, right? Those virtual currencies are fungible tokens. So I think in the context of the game, like they make a lot of sense and they have a lot of utility, right? In that, like you have to have an item to play the game. Like they are critical to actually playing the game and then going deeper into the game's economy.
Are you playing around with any like unique items that, any like scarcity type issues or digital scarcity,
Yeah, we have rarity, right? And I think that's the nice thing about NFTs, right? Is that the players know that there will only be this amount of NFTs ever minted, like versus like, obviously like, I think World of Warcraft had that problem where a person hacked and like was able to like dupe a bunch of those like spectral tigers, right? Or the players don't know if there's going to be like a max number of something because the game studio could always mint more or, create more. But in the context of like an NFT, they know that there's a finite amount. And I think that finite and like true scarcity of an item creates like real value.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm interested to see how all of that plays in with games, not only NFTs, but blockchain, Web3 going forward.
Yeah, I think we're only at the beginning, right? It's like the space is, like a year old in terms of like reaching any sort of scale. So I think it's things like at the very, very beginning. And of course, there's always like an adverse reaction to the beginning of something the same way that we saw like an adverse reaction to free to play, right? Back in 2009, 2010. When everybody was like, free to play is a scam. Like it's taking advantage of players. Like free to play games aren't real games. And now, of course, like fast forward 10, 12 years and, Fortnite free to play, PUBG free to play, like all of these games that are absolutely huge, League of Legends free to play. It just became something that people got used to. And a lot of players realized that like, hey, it expanded the number of players that could afford to jump into a game just because they didn't have to spend, $59.99 in order to download the game or purchase the game to begin with.
Yeah, it's actually pretty useful because people can try it out, see if it's something that they would enjoy, and then
go deeper. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's easy to get the links. It's easy to play. What kind of system requirements would people need? Is it pretty hardware intensive, or?
It's zero hardware intensive, right? You just need a computer and you need a browser, right? So, or you need an internet connected device, even more broadly, with a browser on it. Like anybody can play the game. It does not depend on the hardware that you have. And that's what also makes it beautiful, right? It's like, this is a game that literally anybody with an internet connected device with a browser can play, which makes it extremely social because you don't have to have, the newest PS5 or the newest NVIDIA graphics card. All you need is a browser. You go to miniroyale.io and you start playing. So zero hardware requirements.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you guys have anything else that you're working on other than Battle Royale right now, or anything anything you can share?
Yeah, we have Battle Royale, we have Team Deathmatch, Capture the Flag, we have a bunch of rotating game modes. We're introducing like free for all mode. And then we're, just looking to the community for ideas on new modes and how we should prioritize new modes. But one of the big things that we're working on right now is clan events. So that's like clan wars. And we're looking deeper into like spectator centric modes. So almost like the Hunger Games style of stuff where, because it's on browser, right? I think the browser unlocks some unique game mechanics that are also not possible on other platforms. So it's like you and I could be playing, other people can open up a link. They could see hey, this person's on my clan. I want to give, when he's playing Battle Royale, I want to give him or her this item, which will, help them. Right. So I think there's probably some interesting stuff that we'll be able to do around spectating and gifting. And we're building a lot of the systems around clans. So for mini Royale Nations, clans are an absolutely critical part of the game and economy. So if you own a land, you take over land with your clan, you compete in events with your clan, you compete in Alliance World events with your clan. They're just absolutely critical to playing the mid and end game.
I would imagine there's got to be a few gamers who don't even have a wallet yet, and this is the first time they're seeing Connect a Wallet, or at least seriously consider setting one up.
Yeah. For the large majority of our players, right, Mini Royale is the only NFT they own, or the first NFT they purchased. It might be the only thing they have in their wallet, right? It's and that's what I think is cool. It's I think the real value comes from bringing traditional gamers, quote unquote, Web 2 gamers, bringing them into Web3 economies. And the way to do that is a really frictionless experience. So it's been awesome to see so many people from our community, not even know what a blockchain is. And all of a sudden, they have a phantom wallet and they have Sol in their wallet, or they have a bunch of NFTs and now they're trading NFTs and lending NFTs and fractionalizing NFTs. So I think it makes just the game so much deeper when things are on chain, or specifically the economic parts of the game.
Yeah, it's a really fun exploration, I would imagine. Is Phantom the only wallet that's supported, or can people use other wallets?
Right now, Phantom's the only wallet that we support. We are going to be doing integrations with other non-custodial and custodial wallets as well, though.
Yeah. So let's say that someone is interested in playing the game. They get a link. Do they need a wallet to start playing? Is that kind of a prerequisite so you can just jump in and then set that up later?
I mean, you jump in, and then what we want is if the person has fun, then they can choose to invest more. And that investment can come in the form of time, can come in the form of it can be a financial investment. But first and foremost, they need to be having fun in the game. And then they can choose to connect a wallet, put Sol in that wallet, participate in our NFT drops, play the battle pass and earn NFTs, join a clan, and do all of these things. But I think it starts with a fun and social game first.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you said they can also invest time. Is there a mechanism for being rewarded for efforts in the game, or how does that work?
I mean, but by investing time, it's like, obviously some of our mechanics, like our battle pass, like it requires both skill and time to progress through all the tiers and earn all of the rewards. But I guess before a player decides to invest all of that time, they need to be having fun.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, for a second I was thinking like,
yeah, we're not doing tokens per minute. We're not doing that. Like for us, right? It's just we're hyper focused on making a really fun and social game, and then leveraging like the blockchain to make our economy deeper.
Yeah, a lot of that community has open code source ideas where people can share code or change things. And I was just wondering if you see any of that in the game development world where people are having like an active role in creating games. Do you think that's something that might happen in the future?
You mean the community creating games? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like if there's anyone who's playing who just happens to be a developer, and not necessarily with what you're working on, but just in general, like is game development pretty much just proprietary, and then blockchain, all the crypto stuff is just kind of integrated, or do you see the game develop industry moving more towards a kind of like a collaborative community? It's kind of a strange question, but I've just been thinking about open
I think
source
it's
a lot.
It's definitely becoming more collaborative. I think so I think there's probably two definitions here. There's like open source, which is actually sharing source code, and then there's modding, which doesn't necessarily mean sharing source code. So I mean, I think there's probably going to be both, right? Games that will allow will share source code and allow people to modify that and maybe create their new games or add new modes. And then there'll of course be modding, right? Which is what you see in Minecraft and GTA 5, or GTA Online. And that's just become a really good end game for players. And I think like the thing that's nice when, all of a sudden you open up the creation to the community is they end up doing things that you probably didn't think of. And those things are like, they end up being sometimes like really, really sticky. So in like Minecraft and GTA Online, right, role play is like a massive thing. And that's kept that game going for, how many years past the point where the developer could have probably kept it going themselves.
Yeah, those are some really popular like YouTube and Twitch channels where people are, pretending to be cops or something like that. And
yeah, like Dream SMP server on Minecraft is crazy, right? It's like the developer is not like forcing people to do role play. This is all like very organic. And because it's organic, like it's super social, super sticky. And I think every game like wants a little bit of that. So I think all games these days are, incorporating some UGC or community creator element into them.
Yeah, and it is interesting, but I kind of wonder because, like, obviously, as a game development company, you need to be profitable to pay employees. To there's a lot of costs involved. I mean, you don't want people just like ripping off your code, running away with it. But like, I'm just wondering if in the future there's a way to, still make it profitable, but also allow for collaboration. And it's not an idea. It's not an idea that I'm attached to. It's just something that I've just been kind of curious, like how that works. Or are people just like pirating code now, or like, I don't know.
I mean, there's always been pirating code, but I think the value in a game comes from the fact that players are playing your specific game. Like imagine two versions of Halo, Halo A and Halo B. And Halo A had, Halo A and Halo B were identical, right? But Halo A had all the players. Obviously, Halo A is going to be the only one that players care about. And Halo B is just going to be a dead game. Like no matter how, if we're talking about like social and multiplayer games, like if you have a beautiful looking game with no players, that game is not valuable.
Yeah, that's true. The game industry is just fascinating how far things have come in the last few decades, and I can only imagine how things are going to be in the future with a lot of like augmented reality, that sort of thing. What are some projects that you are interested in that you're seeing being developed? Sorry to kind of stray away a little bit, but is there anything in any particular area of interest that kind of catches your attention?
Yeah, we've been like looking a lot, or I've been interested to see like shared fungible token economies. Like if there's a fungible token that powers a variety of games, both like first party and third party. I think it's pretty interesting. So treasure.lol, they're, I think, experimenting with this. I think we're, very, very early, but yeah, it's been interesting to follow them and see, like, is there value to a number of games plugging into the exact same land meta plus token economy.
If you don't mind me asking, like, what part of the world are you in? You don't have to be too specific.
I'm in Miami, so I think my Twitter even says Miami, so it's not a secret.
And is most of your team working remotely, or are you guys all kind of in the same geographical area?
We're all remote. We have people in the US, we have people in like Western Europe, Central Europe, Eastern Europe. We're just remote first. Like we started right remote, and I think like everybody on the team enjoys the flexibility.
Yeah, that's really cool. I never would have imagined as a kid that games could be created across the world simultaneously. It's
the funny thing is, like, games have always been created across the world simultaneously. Like, I think it's very rare that you make a game where everybody sits in the exact same office and you never leverage like talent or resources that exist outside of your office, right? Even like, Destiny, right? It's like they had a number of different art farms, and those art farms weren't all located in whatever Washington State or wherever the Destiny team was sitting at the time. So gaming has always been very international. I mean, even if you, and that's like obviously where you hire, gaming studios have always had like multiple offices all over the world, just because gaming is, like I said, just so international in terms of the types of players you need to sort of appeal to. And I think gaming in general, like even if you look at free to play, like some of the best gaming companies are not like in the US, right? They're in like Asia, right? It's like China, Korea, Japan. So we've always been like, even like me and Dennis, like we're, obviously working in like Western studios at Glue and Scopely, but we're always trying to learn from what other studios, particularly Eastern studios, are doing and how they're innovating in the space. So gaming has always been very international.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I guess I'm thinking like, pre-internet days, like were they just like mailing each other floppy disks? Or
I have no idea. I have no idea. I was fortunate enough to grow up with the internet, or at least grow up with a dial-up modem.
Yeah, definitely a big leg up, even with dial-up. Yeah, because I saw that you co-founded Faraway in July 2021. So pretty much, still right. COVID was still a pretty big thing, but you're still able to raise enough money, to get your vision off the ground, which is really cool. It just shows me that that video game industry is thriving, doing well. And when you were trying to get this off the ground, were you able to leverage some of your previous relationships and experiences in the gaming industry, or were you kind of trying to find new sources of funding through maybe different crypto, blockchain type investments? I know it's kind of a intruding question, but I was just wondering how funds are raised these days.
Yeah, I mean, so we raised like a traditional venture, like traditional rounds from like institutional like venture funds, right? So we didn't use like NFTs or token sales in order to fund games. For us, it's always been like product first. So before we introduced NFTs, we made sure before we sold NFTs, we made sure people could see like, hey, there is a product that's already like fun and has players. And this is like an actual place where your NFTs will have utility. And same thing with our tokens. Like before we release our tokens, we're going to make sure we have utility for those tokens in our game. So for us, it was important that we go and raise like maybe more traditionally, use those funds to actually build a game that is fun and engaging. And then after that, right, we can do NFT drops and token sales and IEOs and all of that type of stuff. But basically raising more traditionally allowed us to be much more product first and not rely on NFT drops in order to like fund our roadmap.
Let's say there's anyone listening who maybe wants to get into creating video games because, I don't know, maybe they're younger, maybe they're older, want a career change. What do you recommend for someone who wants to make games? You know, what's a good place to start, or any experience you could share with them?
Play games. Like that's honestly the best way. Play games, study games. Like there are a couple like really good blogs out there around like game design, like Deconstructor or Fun is like a very famous like free to play blog. They're now doing, I think, more stuff with Web3 gaming. But yeah, I think like play a lot of games, like constantly like analyze them, take notes, try to map out what the different like core loops are in the game. And just like play a bunch of games and compare them to each other. And that's honestly the best way to get started. Like you have to love games in order to make games.
Yeah. I used to spend a lot of money on games and I was like, it's too much money. But then I think about the amount of time of enjoyment I would get. It's like, it's cheap if you really play a game for a long time, like it's really valuable. And then you think about all the time that everyone put into making that game. And it's like, I should be paying a lot more for this. This is a really cool thing. So that's really cool to see that your game is free to start. I mean, that's really cool. I wanted to give you the opportunity to just have the floor. If there's anything you want to leave us with, or, definitely tell where people can go to learn more, any websites, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Honestly, people should play the game. We have season 2 coming up. It's a cyberpunk themed season. So yeah, it's a really good time for people that haven't played Mini Royale before or missed season 1 to hop in. So it's just miniroyale.io. Like click the start button, jump into a game, start playing, have fun. If you want to learn more about just like the game, like follow us on Twitter. It's it's at Mini Nations. You can read through our white paper. It's just whitepaper.miniroyale.io. But yeah, that's it. Like I think the best way to learn about us is actually just play the game, join our Discord, follow us on Twitter. But yeah, that's honestly the best place to start.
Right on. I love it. Well, cool, Alex. I really appreciate the conversation. Thanks for joining me today. Wish you all the best, and can't wait to try out the game.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.